Organizations that focus on total quality gain a quality advantage. What they also discover is that their total costs go down. The reason that costs go down is that the costs of not doing things right, the cost of rework, the cost of scrap, the cost of customer complaints and turnover and bad planning are all reduced. Imagine, for example, the costs associated with putting together a highway system. Consider the funding and the people and the permits and the resources that have to be mobilized to make something like this happen and ensure good quality. Out there, an entire neighborhood was bulldozed, buildings were removed, people were displaced, all to make room for this new superhighway. It starts right here. The problem is, it ends right here. This highway was never built. It's a very expensive highway to nowhere. When cost of quality is mentioned, I bet most of you are thinking about those roads to nowhere, those monuments to bad planning. But when you calculate the cost of not doing things right in every organization, examples like those pale. It's been estimated that the cost of quality in manufacturing organizations can represent as much as 25% of their total costs. In service organizations, the cost of quality can represent as much as 30% of gross sales. One of our clients is a manufacturer of heavy-duty air conditioning equipment, a multi-million-dollar company. They gave me an example of their cost of quality. They make those units that fit on the top of buildings. They built one, put it on a flat car, and shipped it to Salt Lake City. They put it on the roof of a building in Salt Lake City, plugged it in, it was dead on arrival. They took it off the building, back on the flat car, back to their plant to fix it. And I said to the president, can you imagine the cost of that? Can you imagine the cost of the people who watched the people who made that thing that was dead on arrival in Salt Lake City? And before he could say anything, one of his staff interrupted and said, 17.4% of gross sales. They had already calculated their cost of quality. Indeed, one of the best-run companies in America publicly states that its cost of quality runs as high as $1.1 billion a year. When you think about the cost of quality, think about an iceberg. Some of the costs are above the surface. They're easy to see, like the cost of waste, inspection, rejects, or rework. But many of the costs are less obvious. They're below the surface, such as the cost of planning, paperwork, turnover, billings, complaints, or the cost of inventory or freight. Some of these costs will always be with you, such as the cost of inspection or planning. But most of the costs of quality are avoidable. Bell Laboratories found when they started to work on their avoidable costs of quality that there seems to be a 1-10-100 rule. If they're able to make an on-the-spot correction of a quality problem, it costs them an hour of time. If they have to make a downstream correction, in other words, if a problem is discovered by quality assurance or quality control, and then they have to go back and fix it and rework it, it costs them 10 hours. If whatever they're doing fails at the customer's site, it costs 100 hours. An aerospace executive told me recently that it's not 1-10-100, it's 1-10-1 especially if your customer has a disaster. I used to fly airplanes for a living, and pilots always used to worry about the fact when we were revving up the engines on the end of the runway, about to take off on a mission, possibly a dangerous mission, that we were sitting in the cockpit of an airplane that was built by the lowest bidder. We made the rational assumption, I think, that if it was so cheap, it couldn't be so good. But today we recognize the fact that you can have a positive relationship between quality and costs. As quality goes up, costs actually go down. If you needed open-heart surgery, for example, you obviously want to go to a place where they do things right every time. Now, you might think that such a place would be astronomically expensive. But statistically, those organizations that produce the best results also have the lowest costs. Why? Because organizations that are constantly trying to improve their systems so they never make a mistake reduce their avoidable costs of quality. In the case of heart surgery, They also reduce a lot of pain and aggravation on the part of a lot of patients. We used to think that if only we could get people to stop making mistakes, if quality control could find all of our mistakes, catch us doing something wrong, slap our wrists, make us fix them, all of our quality problems would be solved. We'd barely scratch the surface of our quality problems. Because the only way you're going to attack the cost of quality is to listen to your customer and execute perfectly. Only then do you know that you're doing right things right. If you listen to your customers, internal or external, but don't deliver, if you blow it, then you're going to be doing right things wrong. If your boss needs a report and you prepare it but deliver it 3 days late, that report is of no use to him or to you. If you don't listen to your customer but operate just perfectly, then you're going to be doing the wrong thing right. Like the patient lying there waiting to have his appendix taken out, and some other doctor comes by and accidentally takes out his tonsils. Perfectly. If you don't listen to your customer and you don't execute properly, then you are really in trouble. Then you'll be doing wrong things wrong. It's like going to a restaurant, getting the wrong meal, the food is lousy, the portions are so small. In this unit, we're going to show you how to calculate your cost of quality. How you spend your time in each one of those sectors will help you determine how you can make the biggest impact on your cost of quality. A group of senior executives in one company kept a log of everything they did for a week. What they found out is that the company could save a lot of money if they only worked 3 days a week, because at least 2 days a week were spent doing the wrong thing, fighting fires and crisis management. There's an old story about a fellow driving a Volkswagen 40 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. He's blown off the road by a Ferrari that must be doing at least 110. Shortly thereafter, a policeman pulls the Volkswagen driver over and starts to write out a ticket. Well, the fellow in the Volkswagen said, "Officer, look, I know I did something wrong, but a Ferrari went by here and just blew me off the road." The police officer said, "I know that, but I can't catch the Ferrari." In the quality advantage, we're going to catch Volkswagens and Ferraris as everybody starts to do the right thing right. When you do that, when you finally get a handle on your cost of quality, everybody benefits. Your organization benefits because it will gain a competitive and quality advantage in the marketplace. You'll benefit because you'll be spared from the hassle of rework, having to do things over and over again, and ultimately, and most importantly, your customers will benefit. Let's take a look now at your cost of quality and see what you can do about it.